Okay, guys, I'm just reviewing the last part that we studied in the previous class, which was a cycle view of supply chain. And as you remember, I hope that you have studied that part of lectures. The whole process of a supply chain could be divided in 4 cycles. So in a cycle view of a supply chain, you will have 4 cycles. And then if you remember, we mentioned that we will have a customer cycle, which is a cycle connecting retailer to a customer. Then we have replenishment cycle, which is connecting distributor to a retailer. Then we have manufacturing cycle, which is connecting manufacturer to distributor. And in upstream level, we have procurement cycle, which is connecting supplier to manufacturing. Maybe for the purpose of memorizing the cycle, I can suggest you from supplier, you are procuring some raw material. So procurement is related to supplier. I think that would be easy. So from supplier, you are putting some procurement to get raw material. And then in the manufacturer, you are doing manufacturing. So manufacturing cycle is connecting manufacturer to warehouse. And then in the between retailer and distributor, whenever there is an order from customer to the retailer, a replenishment should happen, because when something is taken from the shelf, and then you need to replenish that item with a new one. So that replenishment order will send from retailer to the distributor. So just keep in mind that, okay, replenishment is connecting retailer to distributor. And in the downstream, you can see customer. So that would be customer cycle or customer order cycle. I think in this way, it would be kind of easier to memorize this cyclic view of supply chain. And I explained that in each part of supply chain, you can assume that cycle include the supplier and a kind of buyer. So as you can see here, you have supplier, buyer, again between distributor and retailer. This is the case. So in each cycle, you can assume that there is one supplier, there is one buyer. And this process is repeated for all cycles. So the supplier is marketing for the product, the buyer will place one order, and then the supplier will receive the order, the supplier will process the order, the buyer will receive the supply, and this sub-process is repeated in each cycle. And this concept is reflected in supply chain operation reference model, which is a score model. But as I said in this book, rather than a score model, we are focusing on the cyclic view of supply chain. So just to finish this part, each supply chain includes 4 cycles, and inside each cycle, we can divide each cycle in some sub-process between supplier and buyer. And I mentioned that there are some difference between cycle, specifically about the order cycle. When we are going from the downstream to the upstream, the amount of order is just increasing. And also the concept of, the certainty and uncertainty will be, different. In upstream, the level of certainty is kind of high, because the demand is coming from customer, which is out of the scope of our supply chain. But internally, when we are discussing about the demand is coming from the stage that we have defined in our supply chain. So I think we have discussed these 2 differences in the last class. No need to repeat again. And now I'm going to continue with push and pull view. I remember that in the last class, even we have a short introduction. As I said, when in a supply chain, a process is performed or is executed, executed in a response to a customer demand. So we will say that process is a kind of pool view, is done in a pool view. So, or in another definition, whenever you are making something because you have received an order, so it means that your view is a make to order, or your strategy, your production or your supply strategy is make to order. You have received orders, so now you are going to start production. So that view will be kind of pool view. So just memorize this concept. If we are waiting for the customer demand to receive, and then when the customer put the order, then we will start the production. So that would be a pool view. In the other side, when you are not waiting for a real demand, rather than waiting for a real demand, you are anticipating the customer demand. So then based on your forecast method that we will discuss later on in another chapter, based on some anticipation of the level of demand, we will plan the production inside our system. So it means that we are producing to put it in the stock, in the warehouse, and then whenever there is a demand from the customer will come and then pick up the items because there are some available stock in the retailers or in the DC. So this view is a push view. So it's a kind of, you are pushing your product to the customer. In the other view, the product is pulling you to start the process. I think that way will be kind of maybe easy way to memorize the concept. So when the customer is pulling you to start the operation, that would be pull view. When you are pushing your product to the customer to purchase, so that would be a kind of push view. And let's have some example to compare push and pull view and also the cycle view. The first example that I put here is for LLB, supply chain. So it's a kind of supply chain which is specialized in providing some clothes and some kind of recreation equipment. Here the concern is not the kind of product. We are just talking about one company, which is LLB. And what is their strategy? Make to order. So when I'm saying that make to order, immediately you should understand, okay, they are producing whenever there is a real demand. So make to order. When there is a demand, we will make it. Otherwise, we will wait until to receive a real demand. So, and in this environment, and as another example, we have Ethan Allen. It's another kind of supply chain company, but they are specialized in customized furniture. So I think you need to memorize these two cases, because in the next slide again we will have. So LLB now is providing some kind of clothes, and Ethan Allen is providing some customized furniture. And as you can see here, the environment or policy in the Ethan Allen is make to stock. So they are not waiting for a customer. They are just producing some furniture, put it in the stock, and then whenever there is a customer, then they just come and then take those stock. And so here what would be the idea? In LLB, they are executing all process whenever there is a kind of customer demand, because they are working in a make to order policy. So whenever there is a customer demand, they will start production. So we are saying that all the process which are here related to the customer order cycle, they are kind of pull process. But there is very important things that when one part of a supply chain is pull view, we cannot say that the whole cycle in the supply chain is pull or push. I mean, maybe one part of cycle supply chain could be pull, process. Some other part of supply chain could be a kind of push process. So here, for example, in this company in LLB, I think in the next figure, I have put one good example. And then the replenishment and manufacturing cycle in LLB is a kind of in the anticipation of the demand, and then that would be a push process. I think if I go to the next figure, yes, here you go. You see, this is LLB company. This is the company that is providing some kind of product. And you see that in the customer order cycle, the approach is pull. So it means that in the retail stores, we are waiting to receive a customer order. And whenever there is a customer order arrive into the LLB, then we will start and then we will provide those products to the customer. So you see in the customer cycle, as we are waiting for the customer demand, this cycle is a pull process. But when it comes to the upstream, the manufacturing cycle and also procurement cycle, and here the replenishment and manufacturing cycle, they just merge together. So here we don't have a kind of DC. So LLB is a kind of DC and retailer. They are just merged together. So the replenishment and manufacturing cycle, they are merged. And you can see here in these two cycles, the view is push process. So when it's push process, it means that they are not waiting for a customer demand. So rather than waiting for the customer demand, they are anticipating the demand of customer maybe for a couple of months ahead. And then they will start process of production sometimes before the real demand, and then they just put it in the LLB warehouse. So you see, guys, in the procurement cycles, they are anticipating the demand. Based on the anticipation, they will purchase raw materials. And then in the manufacturing company, in the manufacturing shop floor, again, they are anticipating the demand in the retailers of LLB, and based on the anticipation, they will start production of some product. So until now, it's just based on the anticipation of the demand. So until now, it's just a push process in these two cycles. And now you have some kind of available stock. You have some available product in the stock in the LLB retailers. And now you have some product, but then you will be waiting for the customer. And whenever there is a demand from the customer, the distribution or customer order cycle will be a kind of pull process. So if you just look at this arrow, you see that the customer order cycle is pull, and the other cycle, procurement, manufacturing, and replenishment, they are push process. So this is a good example to show you that maybe one part of supply chain could be pull process, some other could be push process. In pull process, the operation, the process will be started based on the customer arrival. In push process, we are anticipating the demand, and based on that, we will start our process. I think we will have another example. Yes, this example is for that manufacturer of furniture. So I think the name of company, yes, here you go, is Eton Allen. So they're just producing some customized furniture, and then the customer, they can come and then select and fabricate and finish it. Based on the customer demand, they just customizing the furniture that should be delivered. So what would be their strategy? They will wait until arrival of a customer demand, and then they will start production. Why? I mean, this is the case usually for the customized product, because when you want to deliver a customized product, it means that the product is going to be designed specifically for a individual customer. So you cannot produce something and then later on remove something from the final product because you wanted to make it custom. This is not going to work in reality. So when you want to provide some customized product, it's better to finalize the order from the customer to know which features are required to be in the final product, and then you will start your production. You will trigger the production. And this is the case for Ethan Allen, manufacturer of customized furniture. So in the production cycle, they are just waiting for the customer demand. So what would be the view here? Is it push view or pull view? In the manufacturing cycle of this company, if you are waiting to the arrival of a customer demand, and then based on that, you will start production. Okay, I heard. Yes, exactly, Fatma. Thank you, Fatma, Magam, Misa, and Al-Marba. It's a kind of pull view, because the customer is pulling you to start production the furniture. But can we say that whole process of the supply chain of Ethan Allen is a pull or push? No. I mean, this part, I mean, the manufacturing cycle, which is combined by a customer order cycle, it's a kind of pull view, because we will, the customer order and manufacturing cycle here, it's kind of merged together. But in the other cycle, I think in the next slide, we will have a good figure over here. Okay, just look at this figure. This is related to Ethan Allen, which is producing some customized furniture. You see here, the customer order and manufacturing cycle, they are kind of combined together. And as I said, Ethan Allen is waiting for a customer demand. And whenever there is an arrival of a customer, they will start production of a customized furniture. So this part, these two cycles, they are pull process, because the process are pulled by the customer. But in the other side, they need to have some raw materials in their, production system, because when you are producing some sofa, some furniture, for sure you need to keep some wood, some metal, some other accessories, some pins, some stuff that some maybe kind of maybe luxury stuff that you wanted to add to your sofa. And I mean, all these raw materials should be purchased before. And here in the supply chain of Ethan Allen, they have decided to keep the procurement cycle, which is happening. If you remember, procurement is happening between which two stages? Procurement cycle, guys. The procurement cycle is connecting supplier to manufacturer. Yes, here I heard one. Yes, supplier. Thank you, Fatma. So procurement cycle is connecting supplier to manufacturer, and here it would be so late if you wanted to release an order for receiving raw materials after you receive the order from your final customer, because maybe the lead time for receiving the raw material is going to be, for example, 3 months. And if you want to wait until receive an order from your customer and then order the raw materials to the supplier, that would be so late, because your customer is waiting to receive the customized furniture in 1 week. But if you don't have anything as the raw material in your production system, in your warehouse, so you cannot fulfill that demand. So now they have decided to use a kind of push process in their procurement cycle. And this is the case in many companies. when it comes to the customized product, the view will be pull process. But when it comes to the procurement cycle regarding the long lead time, they prefer to anticipate the demand of raw materials by connecting the raw materials and final product, and then here they are just following a push process. Yes, Hamide, go ahead.
My question is, can we say, for example, when we want to customize a product, we always should go for the pull view, or for example, when we are going from the supplier to manufacturer, we always should use the push view?
Well, this is a good question, and I would say that in most of the case, the answer is yes, but still it depends to some other factors. As I said, for example, in a procurement cycle, you are receiving some raw materials from the supplier to your warehouse in the manufacturing system. If you know that the lead time is so long because your supplier is based in another country. For example, you have one manufacturing company in Oman, in Muscat, and you are providing some raw materials from one supplier based in China. And then based on the historic data, you know that the lead time in average is 3 months. So if we are facing that long lead time, so it's better to use a kind of, plan or operation in a kind of anticipation. So that would be a push process. But if your supplier is close to the manufacturer, and it's a reliable supplier that will provide items, the raw materials on time with a good quality. So in that regard, maybe rather than just filling your warehouse with the raw materials, it's better to wait to receiving order from the customer, and immediately you will send the orders to the your supplier. But again, you see, it depends to the closeness and responsiveness of your supplier. If the lead time is so short, if your supplier is reliable, that will provide you the required items on a nick of time, so in this case, you don't need to fill your warehouse with full of raw material, because inventory in a supply chain is the source of cost. In nature, the inventory is not a good thing. It's just the source of cost. When you are putting your warehouse with full of raw materials, in some regard, maybe you are feeling comfortable because whenever there will be a demand from customer, your production system will be ready to start production. But in the other side, when you are putting inventory in the warehouse, it means that you are losing some money by inventory storage cost. So as I said, it depends to the situation in the system, but generally we can say that yes, in procurement cycle, push process or push view will be preferred. And in the last stage, in the customer cycle, specifically when we have a kind of customized product, it's better to follow a kind of pull process. Specifically, if you know that some product may not be required by the customer, then it's better to follow the pull process. Welcome, Hamide, and let's go to next slide. So I think here is just the discussion that we have. And now let's continue. I think this is the last part of this chapter. So we have a cycle view, if you remember, in cycle view, we divided the supply chain in 4 cycles. Customer, replenishment cycle, so customer order cycle, replenishment cycle, manufacturing cycle, and procurement cycle. And then we define another category, which was push or pull view. And the idea was easy. If you are you will start your operation based on the real demand, so it's a kind of pull view. If you will start operation based on the anticipation, that would be push view. So that was the second category, and now I'm introducing the third category for dividing the supply chain process, which is macro view. And in macro view, the supply chain operations could be divided in 3 categories. The first one is customer relationship management that will associate between the supply chain firm and customers. And usually, as the abbreviation, they call it CRM. So customer relationship management, or CRM, is associating your firm, your company. Here we are discussing about supply chain, so that would be a supply chain company and customers. So I think here the customer is a good keyword to memorize that. What would be the link between here the items here. This in all this category, the supply chain company is fixed. In customer relationship management, you are associating your company with the customer. In another category, we have internal supply chain management. And regarding this title, internal, it means that all processes which are related to the, internally inside 4 walls of your supply chain or 4 walls of your company. So that would be internal supply chain, such as production, scheduling, warehousing, everything which is happening in the scope of your supply chain inside your firm, in the scope of your company. And the other category is now supplier relationship management. So I think you can easily guess that what would be the component here. In customer relationship management, we are associating firm or our company with the customer. In supplier relationship management, we are associating the process of our supply chain company with a supplier. And which component, which item is common in these 3 categories? As you can see, supply chain firm. If you are associating your company to a customer, so that would be CRM. If you are just focusing on the process inside your factory, that would be internal supply chain. And then if you are linking your company with the supplier operation, that would be supplier relationship management. And for sure, the integration between all these 3 processes is essential if we want to have a kind of successful supply chain. I think we have one figure over here. Yes, supply chain macro process. I just took one figure from the book. You see that the process in macro view is divided in supplier management, internal management, and customer management. The customer relationship management, supplier relationship management, and the management of supply chain in the scope of our company. We are not going in too much details here, but just as a general categorization, in the customer relationship management, let us start with this part. Here we are dealing with a customer. So in this macro process, we are seeking to define some customer demand to convince a customer to purchase something from our company. So it means that we are marketing. What is marketing? When you are convincing a customer to purchase something from your market, from your company, it's marketing. And then what would be a good price for that specific customer? How you are going to sell your product to that customer? Are we going to establish a call center to respond to the customer, inquiries, or how we are going to fulfill the demand of the items and how we are tracking and placing them? All this operation is divided into the CRM. So when we are connecting our supply chain with the customer, all those process is categorized in this segment. And then we have internal supply chain. So how we are going to provide the product for the customers. And for sure, the strategic planning, the demand planning, supply chain planning, how we are going to fulfill the demand in different stage of supply chain. All these operations which are executed inside the scope of supply chain is internal ICM. And in this book, mostly we are focusing on ISCM. We are usually focusing on the operation inside the supply chain. And in the other side, we have supplier relationship management. And I believe that this semester you are going to have a procurement course. Am I right? Yes, so that would be a, macro process that you are going to study in this semester. So which source we are going to find? The different sourcing strategy. Is it going to closest one? Is it going to the more reliable one, the cheapest one? Are we going to look at the quality, or the sourcing, a different sourcing of a strategy? How we are going to negotiate with the supplier? How we are, in which channel we are going to buy the items from, the raw materials from the supplier? And so all those sort of things that hopefully you will study in procurement course is linking your supply chain company with a supplier. As I said, mostly in this semester, we are focusing on the core macro process, which is internal supply chain. Okay, guys, that was the end of chapter 1. I think we spent too much time on this chapter, and there are some examples of a successful supply chain, and I will leave those parts to you. You can just study those examples as a self-study. So the example will be such as comparing Gateway and Apple, how they just enter into the retailing, and then Zara as another apparel manufacturing and retailers, Grainger and McMaster-Carr, that they are providing some kind of appliance as for repairing and maintenance, and Toyota, I think no need to explain what is Toyota. Amazon is online sale, and Mackie, which is a kind of omni-channel retailing. And then in this example, you will see what is the meaning of omni-channel retailing, and maybe later on in this course we will have more detailed discussion about omni-channel retailing. So when you are providing kind of a different alternative for your customer to purchase your product, it's kind of omni-channel retailing. But that was only one example. There are many other examples of omni-channel retailing. So I will recommend you at the end of this chapter to study these examples. They are good examples. They are not difficult, kind of easy examples. And hopefully by the end of, this okay, I will send you the PowerPoint of chapter 2. Before starting chapter 2, I will send it. And at the end of chapter 1 that we have studied, you are supposed to learn about what are the goals of a supply chain. And also, we have been discussing 3 phases, 3 decision phase, a strategic, planning, and operational phase of a supply chain. What is the cycle view, what is push and pull view, and what are macro process in a supply chain. So by the end of this chapter, when you have studied the lectures and also some exercise from the book, you are expected to be kind of knowledgeable in this highlight. And now you are asking me to send the PowerPoint of chapter 2. So just let me stop recording. Okay. Usually we are starting with the learning objective of this chapter. So hopefully by finishing this chapter, you will be able to explain what is the strategic fit and why we need to achieve a strategic fit. This is the main objective. And in addition to the strategic fit, you need to understand the supply chain strategy and competitive strategy. So in this chapter, we want to connect, we want to align and coordinate supply chain strategy and competitive strategy. If we could adjust supply chain strategy and competitive strategy together, then it means that we can achieve to a strategy fit. And then we will have the discussion how these two strategies, I mean supply chain and competitive strategy, could be aligned. And for sure, for reaching those fitness, for reaching and obtaining this strategic fitness, we will have some challenges that we need to overcome if we want to have a successful supply chain. Okay, let's go and then see what are the terminology here. So usually we are going to discuss about a strategic fit, supply chain strategy, and competitive strategy. So now, at the beginning, we are going to see the idea of competitive strategy. So when we are saying that a competitive strategy, if I want to make it simple, I would say that what is the question here? Lena can see the slide. Is it the issue with the other student? Because, okay, just let me share a slide again. How about now, Lena? Can you see? Okay. So in competitive strategy, what does that mean? When there is a customer, for sure there is some kind of requirement from the customer. Why that customer should come to you and purchase the product or receive the services from your company? Because you have to provide some competitive strategy. Just compare, for example, Lulu and Nesto as two kind of retailers. Why you will go to Lulu rather than Nesto to purchase something? Maybe because of the price, maybe the quality, maybe because of diversity of the product, maybe the service after sale, maybe the location, maybe your house is much closer to Lulu, so you will prefer to go to Lulu rather than Nesto. So, I mean, when we are discussing about the competitive strategy, Yes, here for Hamid, the location is important, feature. So when we are discussing about the competitive strategy, it means that your customer have some requirement, and how you are going to satisfy the requirement of your customer. So that would be your strategy. That would be your competitive strategy. So when we are discussing about the competitive strategy, it means that how you will provide some competitive advantage of your supply chain. Otherwise, if you don't have a competitive advantage in your supply chain, your customer will go to satisfy his or her demand from another, supply chain or supplier. So when we are discussing about the competitive strategy, immediately in your mind, you should bring the customer requirement, the customer needs. How I'm going to be competitive enough in the market to attract the customer to come to my supply chain and receive the product or services. To be attractive enough for my customer, I need to provide some competitive advantages. How I'm going to provide some competitive advantages? By following some competitive strategy. So I think now the definition should be kind of clear now. By following competitive strategy, it means that we wanted to be competitive enough in the market to absorb, to target the customer requirement. And here I just put one example. For example, Walmart, which is a very famous supply chain and retailing in the basically in US, they are providing high availability of a variety of product. So guys, high availability, it means that whenever you go to the Walmart, the things that you wanted to purchase is available. This is availability. And also in addition to availability, the variety is also high. Different kind of product from the same item will be available. And also the quality is good and the price is low. So, all these features, high availability, diverse product, good quality, reasonable price. These are the features which is provided by Walmart. So, and then these features will be the competitive features for Walmart. So it means that Walmart competitive strategy is providing these features. Otherwise, if Walmart is not providing this kind of competitive advantages in the market, so the customers in the United States, they will go and then purchase their demands from the other retailers. But this is not always the matter of price or quality. Sometimes is the matter of responsiveness and the matter of the time. For example, here one example is for McMaster-Carr, which is a kind of retailers of maintenance product, maintenance and repairing product. They kind of accessory product, and their competitive advantages is fast responsiveness. So it means that whenever you want something, they can provide you in a short time. So here responsiveness is the main advantages of McMaster-Carr. But their customer, they are not expecting low price because they are preferring to receive the items in a shorter time, maybe specifically for the maintenance and repair operation. This is sometimes essential because when the manufacturing machine is broke down and then you need to maintain that machine, you need to receive your repairment in a short time. So here the responsiveness, the short delivery time is important than the cost. So the advantage, which is the competitive advantage, which is provided by MasterCard here is responsiveness. And what would be the scenario here? So in each case, in our supply chain, we will define our competitive strategy based on the customer priority. So we, as the manager of the supply chain, we will look at the priority of our customer, such as cost, delivery time, variety of the product, quality, and some other priority that might be considered. Maybe the ease of purchase, maybe we are preferring to have some kind of online purchase. We are sometimes seeking for delivery of items on in-house. And this sort of thing, I mean, based on the priority that we have, that your customer may have in their mind, the competitive strategy of supply chain will be defined. For example, in MasterCard, retailers that we were discussing in the previous slide, the customer, for them, the response time is important. It's more important than the cost. But in Walmart, usually they are concerned about the cost rather than the response time. So you see, for different kind of product, for different kind of customers, the priority might be different. And if you are targeting a specific kind of customer, you need to address their priority. And then your competitive strategy, your competitive advantage should be aligned with your customer priority. Here I mentioned two other examples. They are, I mean, retailers of jewelry stuff. Maybe that would be interesting for female student. One is Blue Nile. Yes, I'm not familiar with this company, Blue Nile, and the other one is Zale. So both they are kind of supply chain of jewelry stuff. The point for Blue Nile is that they can purchase online. So they have a great website. So you can put your orders online, and then there is a huge variety of the product, and also the cost is depending on the product. But the point is, I mean, you cannot touch the product because when you are purchasing online, you can just see the pictures. You cannot touch it, and then maybe, you know, when you are wearing some kind of jewelry, it's the feeling is different when you are just seeing the figure of that jewelry in the internet. In the other side, we have another retailer, which is Zales, and then they have some outlet. But the good point about the outlet of Zales is that you can go to the outlet, you can go to the shop, and then there are some, for sure, I mean, seller, they can just deal with you. And then in a short time, you can just take your product. But the point is, when you go to an outlet, for sure, the diversity is much lower than a kind of online website. I think all of you will agree that in a outlet, I mean, in a store, there is a limitation regarding the physical space. So the space is limited, so the diversity of the product is limited. But the good point is that you can touch the product that you want to purchase, and then the delivery time is just instantly, because you can just purchase it and take it. In the other side, in Blue Line, it's purchase online. You have to wait maybe 3 days, maybe 1 week to receive the things that you have purchased. So you see, based on the priority of the customer, these two retailers, they are they are following some competitive strategy. And so, I mean, the last sentences here is that when we want to define our competitive strategy, when we want to, provide some competitive advantages, that should be aligned based on the customer priority. Here we have one concept of value chain in a company, in a supply chain. So all this operation and strategy, including product development strategy, marketing and sales strategy, operations strategy, distribution strategy, service, after sale strategy. All these are bringing value to your supply chain, because you need to fulfill, you need to implement all this strategy to generate a valuable product, to generate a valuable services to your customer. Otherwise, if you don't follow this strategy, the outcome of your supply chain wouldn't be valuable for your customer. It means that you are not being competitive enough to attract your customer. So here you can see the relationship between competitive and supply chain strategy. So I mean, in the continuation, we will discuss about the relationship between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. But here in this figure, I just started with the supply chain strategy. And as I said, we have product development strategy. In the later slide, we will have more detailed marketing, operation, distribution, and service strategy. These are the main strategy that we can have in a value supply chain. And all this supply chain strategy should be aligned by competitive strategy. That could be the discussion of the rest of today's class. I think the first sentences over here is repetitive. It's again highlighting the concept of competitive strategy. What was the competitive strategy? The strategy that we are defining to answer the customer requirement. Because we want to provide some product or services, valuable product or services to customer. And if we are seeking to customer to come and purchase from us, so for sure some advantages should be in our product. So how we are going to deliver that advantages? It means that we need to follow some competitive strategy. So this is one part of discussion, and then we need to have a link between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. But inside supply chain strategy, as you have seen here, we have again we can divide it in some other operation. So it will include product development, marketing, operation, distribution, and services. In product development strategy, you will specify which kind of product we are going to develop and generate. So I think regarding the title, it's clear. In product development, you will just define, you will design the product, a valuable product, and you will try to sell it to the customer. I mean, just producing is not enough. You need to do some marketing and sales strategy. For example, by marketing, you are trying to absorb some customers. Otherwise, no one will be, even familiar with your product. So you need to do some marketing. And also you need to follow some selling strategy. For example, in different market, you can divide the market in different segments, and in different segments, the price could be different, the promotion strategy could be different. I think for the student that they will study marketing in business courses, this would be interesting part. But honestly, in supply chain course, we are not going to spend so much time on the marketing and selling strategy. Our main focus will be usually, the operational level, including procurement, transportation of raw materials, manufacturing inside the facility, distribution of product from manufacturing site to warehouse to DC and so on. Usually in this course, we are just focusing on the operational level inside the facility. And in this chapter, we want to define a kind of a strong coordination between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. And if we could define a strong link between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy, then that will bring us a strategy fit. Okay, let's go to next slide. Again, here I just mentioned one example. This one is related to 7-Eleven, which is again a kind of supply chain and retailer in Japan. Their motto, their main advantage in the marketing is that in the marketing operation, in marketing strategy, they are just emphasizing on the easy access to the stores and also a huge variety of products. So in the marketing phase, which is here, in the marketing and sales strategy, 7-Eleven is claiming that we are always available with a wide range of products. And also in product development strategy, where was it? In the first stage of value chain. In the product development strategy, we are saying that we are constantly adding some new product and services in our supply chain. And for sure, for adding a kind of new product into your supply chain, into your retail stores, you need to have also excellent information system and infrastructure. So marketing is saying that we are providing a high level of availability for a variety of products. And in another strategy, they are saying that we are adding always new product in our retail system. In the other side, in the operation and distribution, the focus is just being very responsiveness. It means that whenever you go to the warehouse and retailers of 7-Eleven, you will see that the density of the stores, the level of inventory is so high, and whenever the level of inventory is so high, so the system will be responsiveness. Here, the responsiveness is the matter of having something to deliver to customer on time. Because when you have a huge amount of inventory in the warehouse, whenever there would be a demand, immediately you can be responding to your customer demand. So you see that marketing strategy, new product development strategy, and operation and distribution strategy, they are providing some kind of competitive advantage here. And as a result, they are offering new product with a high level of demand, because when you have this combination of competitive advantages such as high level of availability, diversity of product, and then ease of access to the product, providing and suggesting new product to your customers, and being very responsive to your customer. All these features, they are a kind of competitive advantage. And whenever there is this combination of advantages, you can expect some increase in the demand of your customer. And just as a positive feedback from the system, when the demand is high, so it means that your monetary return is high. You are receiving, again, good profit from the supplier because they are the source of money. When the demand is high, it means that the profit in the supply chain is getting high. So then by that, return, you can improve again your system. So you see there is a kind of positive feedback from the end of supply chain. You are providing some advantages in your supply chain here. For example, in 7-Eleven, different advantages is providing by different supply chain strategy. And then as a good result, you will have increased demand. By increasing the demand, increase profit. By increasing the profit, again, you can use that part of money to improve your information system, to automate your manufacturing and also warehouse system, and there would be other benefit as well. Okay, let's go to another slide. So now we can say that what is the strategic fit? The strategic fit is the coordination between competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. Competitive strategy, supply chain strategy, if they are aligned to each other, if they are coordinated to each other, it means that we will have a strategy fit. So how we can make this connection? What was the competitive strategy? In competitive strategy, we are just addressing the customer priority. That was our discussion in the previous slide. In competitive strategy, it means that we want to be competitive in the market. So we have to bring some competitive advantages to the market. So it means that we need to we need to point out the customer priority. In the other side, we will have, how we can be competitive in the market? It means that you need to improve your capability in the supply chain. If the capability of the supply chain is not, is not working well enough to bring some competitive advantages, so you cannot fulfill competitive strategy. I repeat again, if the capacity and capability of your supply chain is not matched with your competitive strategy, you cannot, fulfill your competitive strategy. But how come we can improve our supply chain capability? By, improving our supply chain strategy. So if I just want in two directions to reach to the strategic fit, it means that by supply chain strategy, I will improve the capability of my supply chain. By competitive strategy, I will try to address the customer priority. So if the customer priority is addressed, is fulfilled by my supply chain, and but this is not just a slogan, this is not a motto. You need to have a kind of capable supply chain. So the customer priority will be fulfilled by a kind of capable supply chain. So in a lower level, it means that the competitive strategy and supply chain strategy, they should be aligned to each other. And if you fail, in supply chain, it could be because of lack of a strategic fit. If your customer priority is not matched with your supply chain capability, so you are going to fail because you are promising something, or your customer is demanding something, but you are not capable enough to respond to that priority. So you see, guys, this is important. The customer, they have some priority if they wanted to purchase something from you. In your supply chain, you should be capable enough, your performance should be remarkable enough to absorb those customers. if there is a kind of mismatch between customer priority and your capability, so it means that you are lacking of a strategic fit, and then you will be doomed to just fail. And how we can, try to remove that lack of strategic fit? Just try to improve the supply chain capability. How we can try to improve the supply chain capability? By restructuring the design of our supply chain. So by redesigning the supply chain, the capability could be improved, and then that could be matched by our customer strategy. And in reality, if you see that the customer that you have targeted, the priority of those customers is not matched with your supply chain, maybe you need to change your customer. Maybe you have selected a wrong customer because the priority is totally different with your capabilities. So maybe if you cannot increase your capability, so change your customer. And then by changing the customer, you can match their demand with your capability, and then again you get a strategic fit. Without a strategic fit, the supply chain will be doomed to be failed, to a failure. Okay, let's go to next slide. Again, here is the discussion that I think I mentioned here. It's again a competitive strategy and supply chain strategy. They should be fitted to each other. And there are different operations in a company. They should be structured because why we should structure our operation in a company? Because we wanted to improve the capability of our supply chain. So all process and resources, they should be planned in a, efficient way to increase the capability of the company. So I think in the next slide, we will have some examples how we can have a kind of a strategic fit. So a strategic fit, again, I repeat, competitive strategy, supply chain strategy. Why? Because we want to match customer priority and supply chain capability. To match between customer priority and supply chain capability, the competitive strategy and the supply chain strategy, they should be coordinated with each other. Okay, here I just mentioned two examples how we can get to a strategic fit. The first example is there is one just the supply chain, and they are advertising that we can provide a large variety of product quickly. So it means that variety is high and responsiveness is high. So whatever you want, that would be available in a short time, quickly. So this is the advertisement. So in the advertisement strategy or department, they are saying that, whatever you want, we can provide it quickly. Okay, just this is one point. In the distribution department, they don't care about the marketing. The manager of the distribution is just targeting some the lowest cost of transportation mode. Maybe the cheapest transportation is the truck, kind of maybe old truck, and the manager of the distribution, he is just looking for that kind of transportation mode. So in this situation, when you are just using the cheapest tools, it means that there might be some interruption in delivery. Why? Because, for example, you as the transportation manager in that department, I think you remember in logistic management, there are two kind of transportation policy, FTL and LTL. Do you remember, guys? FTL and LTL? FTL and LTL. Any idea? I think these are two main transportation policy. Yes, full truckload and less than truckload. So if, I mean, okay, it seems that you remember it, full truckload. So let's go back. Thank you guys for your response. If you are the manager of this company and then if you are looking for the cheapest transportation, so it means that we are just we want to deliver the things with the cheapest price. So am I going to use FTL or LTL here? So I think here you can understand that the manager, the transportation manager will follow FTL. Why? Because it's a full truckload. You will wait until your truck is filled up with all the orders, with different orders, and then you will send it to deliver the items to different customers, because you wanted to take the economy of scale in your transportation system by grouping the items together in one shipment. Because if for each shipment, if you wanted to deliver separately, it means that you are following a kind of low truck LTL, less than truckload. But for sure the customer will be happy, but here the transportation manager will not be happy because he is seeking for the lowest transportation cost. So the manager of transportation, he will use here the full truckload. And when you are following full truckload, your customer should wait until the truck is filled up with kind of merge order. So it means that the delivery time is postponed to the fulfillment of filling the truck. So now you see that there is a conflict between marketing department and the transportation department. In the marketing department, the manager is saying that we can provide a large variety of product quickly. Okay, the variety still could be high, but the responsiveness is not going to be quick, because when you are following the cheapest transportation mode, so it means that you will use a kind of slow transportation mode, and you wanted to use, for example, full truckload policy to have an economy of scale. So there is a conflict here between these two strategies. So when there is a kind of conflict, you cannot provide short delivery time as a competitive advantage for your customer. So it means that because of that conflict between your operation, your system, your supply chain is not capable enough to deliver product quickly. I hope that you understand this example. In this example, marketing is saying that we will deliver quickly, But in the transportation, the main concern is the cost. And then they wanted to use the cheapest and maybe somehow a slow transportation mode. So here the delivery time is not going to be quick. So in reality, the customer will not be happy because the customer, they are, expecting maybe that kind of quickness as an advantage, but now you cannot provide that. Why? Because your supply chain is not capable enough to match with the customer priority. If the priority of your customer is quick delivery, it means that you need to redesign your transportation policy. And if you go from full truckload to low truckload to LTL, then it means that you are adjusting your distribution policy, and then your supply chain will be more capable of delivering items in a shorter time. So then customer will be happy. So that was a simple example that how we can reach to a strategy quit by readjusting our distribution strategy. In another example, which is example 2, we have another retailer. Just now the example 1 is finished, and then in example 2 we have one retailer, and then they are providing again the variety of product is high, but they wanted to have low level of inventory. So low level of inventory, high level of variety. Different products will be available, but we don't want to spend too much on the inventory. But in the other side, for example, let's assume that you are a retailers of some shoes. You in your supermarket, in your retailing system, you wanted to have a variety of shoes, but you don't want to have a high level of inventory because that would be costly for you. In the other side, you have selected some suppliers of shoes and some carriers. You know, carriers is a kind of transporters. Based on the price, not based on the responsiveness. Here, the responsiveness, whenever I'm talking about the responsiveness, one of the main factors could be the delivery time. So if I purchase the shoes from a supplier, for example, in China, maybe the price will be low, but maybe the delivery time is so high. I mean, they are not so responsiveness regarding the delivery time. So again, I mean, as a result, the customer will not be happy because in your retailing system, you are targeting some customer with you are promising the customer that you will provide some shoes in a short time. But in the other side, you have selected some supplier that they are not so reliable in delivering in a short time. So then it means that the customer priority is not matched with your sourcing policy. Here you see the mismatch is happening in sourcing policy. The source that you have selected in China is not a good policy or decision regarding the customer priority here. So how I'm going to adjust my supply chain, it means that I need to think about and then I need to select another supplier. Maybe the cost will be somehow higher, but at least if I found a kind of faster supplier, then I can have a better match between my supply chain capability and the customer priority. Okay, let's go to okay, guys, I think that would be the last slide for today, and then we can continue regarding these three stages that you can see here. Here, to achieve a strategic fit, we need to understand the customer demand, the customer uncertainty and supply chain uncertainty. And later on, we need to understand the supply chain capability. And in the last stage, we can achieve the strategy fit. So the customer will impose some uncertainty. We will discuss in the next class. And then because of that, we will have some kind of supply chain uncertainty in our supply chain. We need to understand it. And also in the second stage, we need to understand the capacity of our supply chain. So if we have understand the implied supply chain uncertainty, and also if we have understood the capacity inside our supply chain in the last stage, which is stage 3, we can make a fit between customer priority and our capability. And if there would be a mismatch between these two, and then the supply chain cannot fulfill the customer demand, and then that would be our failure. Again, we need to restructure our supply chain, or maybe we can change our competitive strategy. If you see that your supplier is not fast enough to provide the items in a short time, so maybe you can just change your competitive strategy rather than promising, kind of short delivery. You can promise, rather than short delivery, you can promise a kind of low cost of your item, low cost product. So that would be a change in your competitive strategy. So I think that we will discuss about this 3 stage: understanding uncertainty, understanding the capacity, and then making a kind of match between capacity and competitive strategy for the next class. I think I have talked too much for today's class. Okay, guys, is there any question? I think we started with 29. Now we have just end up by 22. It seems that 7 students has left.
Doctor, just I have a question regarding to Zoom that we talked in last class about. We will use Zoom or still BBB?
In our department, there is another Zoom account, but I need to check with one of my colleagues because this account belongs to, his, and I need to check my timetable with my colleague. If I see that there are few clashes between my classes and their classes, then I would try to use Zoom. Otherwise, if I see that there are many clashes between our time, I don't think that would be good to have, for example, one class in Big Blue Button, one class in Zoom, again, one class. It's better to have a kind of consistent approach. I will try to finalize this one hopefully by this week. And by the way, how was the quality of, not the lectures, the quality of the voice and the appearance of the presentation in the Big Blue Button for today's class? Let's assume that if we want to continue by Big Blue Button. Jawahir is saying that it's not clear. But I don't know, Jawahir, in which aspect is not clear? Is it my voice? Is it, I don't know, appearance of the slide? Jawahir is saying that the voice is not clear. Maybe a part of reason is it's not because of the Big Blue Button. Maybe my voice is like that, and even in Zoom, it's again, you will have the same quality. Maybe I need to go to some singing classes to improve the clarity of my voice, huh? By the way, Just let me, okay, now I'm going to stop recording because it seems that there is no question.